Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made a promise in December 2021 to regularize permanent resident status for undocumented people. Had this promise been kept, the Lindo family would not have gone through this nightmare. The Lindo family fled to Canada to escape targeted violence in Jamaica in 2019. Their refugee claim was denied due to lack of legal representation, but after public outcry, their deportation was stopped and the family was given a one-year residency permit. The outcry came because Tamarri Lindo, George's son, is a track athlete at York University and is training with Canada's national track team, with hopes of one day representing Canada in the Olympics. And while the Lindo family avoided deportation, countless people experience this and are being deported despite the Prime Minister's promise over 2 years ago. I'm now joined by Aidan Simadorne, an immigration lawyer who is representing the Lindo family. Aidan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, there was public outcry to the potential for deportation. Just how many people got involved in emailing or phoning Canada's immigration minister and prime minister?
It was incredible. I think it was over 2,000 people before we finally got the result that we wanted. So a huge, huge outpouring all across the country.
How exactly did the family become undocumented, and what did they fear if they were forced to return to Jamaica?
Yeah, so it feels kind of esoteric to those who are not in immigration law, but they made it a refugee application. They were, as you mentioned, unrepresented. Then that's why that failed. They then did what's called a pre-removal risk assessment, but that actually only has a 3.5% approval rate. Then they did what's called a humanitarian compassionate application, which was excellent, perfectly done. It was actually done by a different lawyer than me. I looked over it, it was refused, and I looked at it and decided to have it judicially reviewed. And each of these stages takes a couple years. So that's how they were here for so long in limbo. And that's how they became undocumented.
And why exactly was their claim rejected if that threat of violence existed?
That's a really good question. So I'll just preempt that with I'm doing a judicial review precisely for that reason, because the reason doesn't make sense. According to the immigration officer who did it, their assessment was just that there wouldn't be significant hardship if they were removed. One of the biggest issues was not only obviously the threats to the dad, but one of the reasons I'm having it judicially reviewed is because they didn't consider the interests of the children who would also be removed.
And I mentioned earlier that not all cases are as fortunate as the Lindo family in the sense that their cases do not become as popular. And a lot of the time, it doesn't actually work out. How common are cases like this where people are being deported and sent back to places of danger?
We're getting this like dozens of times a day at least. And you're right. I mean, how many people have a son who is a potential Olympian? That was a big point that really got the public galvanized. But it's unfortunate that's kind of the angle. In a way, it's actually, I'm going to tell you, it's unfortunate I even had to go that far to do that, because really at the end of the day, this is a family that pays their taxes, has no criminality, is doing everything responsible. That should have been enough. And as you've mentioned, they were in limbo for a while and should have just been granted status when they first got here. Unfortunately, they're not in a unique position, and this is happening, and it happens quite regularly.
And what are the changes that Canada needs to make to prevent these outcomes for families?
Yep. Provide a quicker, easier way to get permanent residency. We also do know that people from the Caribbean, Africa, and the Middle East are subject to higher scrutiny. Definitely, there needs to be assessment of that. There already have been government reports showing that's the case, but that definitely needs to be revamped. And I think also providing just as many pathways as possible for people who are here and just try and make their lives better. That's what's needed, because as I've said a million times before, like I wish this was not necessary at all. I wish they were here, got here, and just got status. We obviously have a quote unquote good outcome here, but it shouldn't have taken this long, and this should have been an easy path from the get go.
And when the verdict was determined yesterday, what was the family's reaction when they received the news that they were issued 1 year of temporary residency permits?
So it was really good news. I was with them when that decision happened. I've been trying to keep my composure for quite a while. Believe it or not, I was actually the first to start crying, and then some of the family members started crying. So much joy. I was working on this case probably for 10 days, around 15 hours a day, just to help this family, doing this pro bono. It's been a huge relief, and we're happy to now move forward with the judicial review and hopefully get them permanent residency. And but absolute joy, amazing. We're all very happy, and we're finally getting the sleep that we need after this chaotic period.
A very well deserved victory. Aidan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.